Yo, 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 and welcome back to Creeps and Crimes
Podcast.
I'm Taylor.
I'm Morgan. Happy Thursday and happy episode 231 in real time.
And we're fucking back.
And we're back.
And thank God. And we just chatted forever.
2 hours.
Yeah. Honestly, 2 hours exactly.
It was duly needed.
It was.
Wait, is that the duly noted? That's not correct.
It was very much needed.
It was appropriate.
Yeah. And there were no dead bushes being beaten.
No dead bushes around these parts.
No. Morgan, tell them about your Hawaii trip.
My Hawaii trip was amazing, or as my mother would say, amazing.
Amazing.
I will never get on a plane again like that unless I can afford first class. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was the longest flight of my life. It took longer to get to Hawaii than Italy.
Yeah.
I was like, when are we gonna land?
Because there's like no jet stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, when are we going
You're
to
going against
land? Not
the
to
jet
mention,
stream.
we were on the tarmac in Chicago for 2 hours in line behind a bunch of planes to be de-iced.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I can't do this. So that 9.5 hour flight turned into like 12.
So you're just sitting on the plane the entire time.
Yes.
I know you were losing it.
And I told Aaron, I was like, because I was feeling good and we always swap. I was like, I'll take middle on the way there. You can take middle on the way back. He's like, okay, deal. Horrible deal on my part because we're flying into Denver. So that was only a 6 hour flight that he had to sit in the middle. And then also I did bully someone.
Oh no.
On the plane. I'm surprised I wasn't on a
videoed
on the internet. We were in the very, very last row. I mean like 54 D and E. So the plane was the 3-seater, 4-seater, 3-seater. I'm sorry, actually there was one row behind us. We were the second to last row. We got in there, and because it was the end of the plane, the 2 middle seats were sharing leg space. Well, I didn't know that when I got there.
2 middle seats. Oh, 4.
They were
There's
sharing,
4, yes.
and like, so the crossbars of the seats in front of them were like in between. So like you would have to split that. So I get in, and immediately I'm fucking pissed because I paid for a carry-on.
Right.
My bin is full. Now I know that I'm like the last group. We went the cheap route. We business, period, not even like basic economy.
Right.
And there's this I felt bad, guys. There's this old man in our row. So Aaron and I are in the middle section, first seat, second middle seat, and then there's this old man and a woman. Yeah. And I don't think they knew each other, but maybe they did. I'm not sure. Well, this old man's got his leg and his bag right in front of where Aaron's seat would be. And so Aaron shoves his backpack under my seat. And I'm looking up at all of the bins are now closed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not putting my bag all the way up there or on the other side. Because you know how when they board those big planes, they send you down either one of the aisles.
Yeah.
They separate you. Well, this guy didn't fucking listen. This old man, sorry. So mad.
He went through on the other side.
So I'm like, you need to move your legs. I'm miserable. I'm fucking sun poisoning.
I know you
I'm just tired. And I'm like, sir, you need to move your stuff. I was like, this is our seat and we need to put our bags under here. There's no more
because
above
you have
head
to.
storage. He's like, no, they share. You see they're crossed. Like there's nowhere for me to put it. And I'm like, well, I don't know where I'm going to put my bag. So I'm like, now
causing a scene.
I'm like, I'm not sitting down until I can find a place to put my bag, and I'm not sitting there with 2 backpacks shoved underneath my legs. No, thank you.
Right.
So I'm being crazy to the point where like the guy next to me was like, here, let me move my stuff over in the above head bin. And the couple behind me are like, well, can you we're the only 2 in this row. We think, can you shove it under ours? I was like, no,
I don't want it to be out of my
iPad's
sight.
in there. Like, I'm not doing that. I have so much stuff in there. Now there's a flight attendant on the other side, and she's like, oh guys, it was so bad. She was like, what's going on? I was like, I just don't have, there's no overhead bin storage. I was like, my seat has my husband's because that man's stuff is in my husband's seat. And so like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this backpack. You know, it has to be stowed away appropriately. And I'm not walking back to the front to check it. And she was like, okay, 1 second. And now the old man's like, well, can you move the red suitcase? There's room over here on my side. I'm like, oh, so you boarded in the wrong lane.
Right.
Your stuff shouldn't even be in my bin.
Right.
That should be wide open, but you boarded in the wrong row.
Right.
So now you need to move your stuff over to that side.
And you're not going to be deboarding this way. You get off on the right side.
Right. So how would you even?
Why did he not even think about it in the first place?
I have no idea. So anyway, next thing I know, like it happened in seconds. Next thing I know, the flight attendant's like tapping them on the shoulder, moving them all the way up.
No.
They bumped them all the way up to different seats. And so I did bully this man, and I do feel bad about it, but I'm sorry. He boarded on the wrong lane, and I needed somewhere to put my shit. And so we ended up with a row to ourselves.
Okay, well,
so
then no
now,
harm, no
though,
foul.
the middle seat justified is no longer justified on the flight there because Aaron got a whole fucking row.
Right.
So now I was mad.
So now you got fucked double time.
And then I was even more mad because he stayed awake the whole flight, and I was like, I'm going to sleep, but wake me up for the meal. I will never miss a meal.
No,
that's like a $500 meal. Are
No.
they terrible? Yes.
And
But
either way, I'm gonna eat it.
I was
I'm
excited
hungry.
because it was huli huli chicken or it was pasta.
Yeah.
I wake up.
No.
I'm looking.
I know you are.
I'm immediately like, he's sitting there like this in his phone. I'm like, you didn't wake me up for the meal? He's like, I didn't. Did they get it? I'm like,
where the fuck have you been?
look around. And I was like, I can't ask. I've already been a bitch. I was like, no, I can't be like, can I get my meal, please? Like,
Literally.
I can't do that.
So you didn't get to eat on the way back?
No. I
You're
slept the whole way. It was fine.
kidding.
It was a red eye, so it was fine. Anyway, I know that was a long story. But no, Hawaii was great. My cousin got married. It was a beautiful wedding. It was in Wailea Golf Club. We went to Haleakala Summit, sunrise.
So beautiful.
Stunning.
Literally heart.
But my ears, oh
The whole
no.
way?
I fell asleep in the middle seat of the car. I'm always in the fucking middle in this family. If my head down like this. And I think because my neck was down, my ears didn't pop on the way down.
Yeah.
So then I was miserable earache, road to Hana.
Horrible.
Not to mention my nephew was screaming.
Oh no, horrible.
Because he was in the car for so long because we did the sunrise
I would be
and road to
screaming
Hana.
too.
Yeah, I would be too.
Yeah.
And
It's strapped into
I
a
think I
little
also
seat.
had water in my ear from snorkeling. We did
You do be taking on a lot
crater.
of
Yeah. So I think it was like a mix of all of that. And then so on the plane ride back, I was like this on takeoff.
Oh no.
Like chewing gum just like that. I was like, it's gotta work. It's gotta please work, God.
That's
Please work.
so bad.
Because it still wasn't popped. And I was like, this is
Yeah.
gonna be either the most painful flight of my life or this melatonin I took is hopefully gonna knock me out. Then the melatonin knocked me out. That's why I missed my meal. But no, everything was really great. We found a couple like local only, even though like tourists will find them beaches, and those were awesome.
Awesome. Those
But
were the
honestly, and my mom said the same thing too, that like the beaches where we were, that's where those like really bad floods were 2 weeks ago. So the road in front of our resort was all washed out. It was all closed on that stretch. Like it had happened right where our resort was.
Yeah.
And then so the beaches, because of that, the water was really brown and dirty because of the muds. And then this woman, we're at a farmer's market, and she was like making her own jewelry, painting her own hair clips, like beautiful stuff. And I was talking to her, and she was like, it's my first day open in 2 weeks, like with the floods, you know,
You're like, I'll take one of everything.
the island, like they don't help us with anything. Like they didn't help with cleanup. It was just relying on like friends and family. She was so old, like brittle woman.
Oh no.
And she was like, so all of these up here, I'm doing just whatever you can pay for, 3 for $5, 3 for $10, 3 for $15, 3 for $20, whatever.
I'll give you 50 for one.
Whatever you can get. And she was like, I would really like, honestly, just to help us like get back up and moving. And she was like, but I mean, the floods, they were just terrible. No one's helping us.
Oh my God.
She was like, and that's why there's so many sharks in the water right now. I'm like,
fuck.
like,
Hold on. Back it up.
sharks where? What? Why? So anyway, I was like, can I buy your whole table? Actually, I didn't say that, but I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting like 3 matching hair clips for me, my mom, and my
good.
sister. And she was so funny. She was like, I was like, I have really thick hair. I was like, you think these ones will hold? I really like these. And she was like, girl, I got really thick hair too. She goes, just use them as chip clips. I'm like, yeah,
Exactly
right.
Exactly. Yeah.
But no, I mean,
Just use them as chip clips.
I know, it was hilarious. My
That's
mom's
so
like,
funny.
I'll be using them as chip clips. But great trip, great family time. Tell us about snowboarding.
Oh, we went snowboarding. Jameson broke his wrist. Run 3, day 1. Great.
I can't even believe it.
Yeah.
And there's something going on with like our boys' friends
all getting injured
in
snow.
In snow. It's very
Because like
weird.
right before we left, literally one of our boys' like best friends that they've
his
made.
name is Trey.
Yeah, on Xbox in Snowshoe in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Literally snapped his femur.
Yeah.
Femur.
And like had to stay there. I think he just got home.
Just got home. They had like 4 fucking surgeries.
Guys, I only met this guy one time, and then I DM'd him like when I saw he went home, and he was being so sweet. He was like, "Thank you, all the healthcare workers." Blah, blah, blah. And I DM'd him. I was like, "Hey Trey, glad you made it home. Hoping for a speedy recovery."
You're so
and he
nice.
was probably like, "Who the fuck?"
Who the fuck is this? That's so funny. Yeah, no, so Logan was talking to me about that, and I was like, I think someone's gonna get hurt. And I told Logan, I was like, I knew. No, I just knew. I knew the second that he got hurt, I was like, oh, one of us is gonna get hurt. Not to mention it was fucking ice. It was straight up ice. Lola and Phoebe have only ever gone once before, and I think they skied the majority of the time that they went once before, and they were only on the bunnies, like not even a full green. Jameson had never gone before, and Phoebe's little boo that came with us, he like skis all the time. Like his family goes out like once a year and does like a big trip, so he's like really good. But I do need to brag on myself. I was kind of fucking murdering it.
You were kind of shredding.
I was kind of shredding. Granted, I was hoverboarding the majority of the time. If you watch my reel, you know what I'm talking about. Funny. But like, because it was just so icy, I like wasn't gonna take any chances, and people were being fucking crazy. It was our first time going to Sugar instead of going to Beach, but we drove up through like Elk Lodge and then Banner Elk, and we saw a lot of the damage.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've gone up to Beach Mountain every year, every February for the last almost 9 years that me and Logan have been together. I cried the whole.
I cried driving through Lahaina.
Yeah, Lahaina. Yeah, I literally cried. Me and Logan both were in tears just the whole time, because all I just kept thinking is like, oh my God, like these people, I'm literally gonna cry talking about like they've lost everything and they're fucking terrified. Like I couldn't.
It's fucking cold.
Imagine it's snowing.
People
it's
are still
icy.
literally in like tents, and not tents that you would think of, like tents like
tarp tents,
and like also like the like wedding tents with no sides.
Yeah,
and
nothing.
like relying on like just like propane
like
heat.
what you take to a football game.
Yeah,
like not even like a big one. And I mean that is the case for the majority of this area that were affected by Helene. So I just wanted to use that opportunity to remind you guys that though like a lot of stuff has happened since between when that happened and now, but like they still need a lot of help. They still need donations. It was just heartbreaking to see, but they were really like open to tourists coming back because it helps them to make money and stuff. A hospital that took care of Jameson after, because not only did he break his wrist, he dislocated the other bone. So he had to get it relocated.
Ouch.
While the wrist was broken. That hospital was amazing. The people there were so awesome. He's healing up good. We had a really good time other than that. Logan almost got fucking like killed. No shit. A guy ran into him, probably going like, I'm not shitting you, maybe 35 miles an hour on skis. Screamed on your right as he was hitting Logan. It's the person behind you's responsibility,
right,
to watch for you. If I'm snowboarding, I'm not fucking looking behind me the whole time, or else I'm gonna die. We were doing our last run of the night, and it was our first time going night skiing, which we very quickly remembered why we never, ever go out at night there, because people are just fucked up. All the workers that got off are out there. They're just being crazy. And it's just like dangerous. People are literally going as fast as they can, and it's just straight up ice there. It's not like in a
fresh plow.
Yeah, it's not like a real fucking. It's a blown ice or blown snow,
melted together by the sun and
literally
by
and so it was just like a lot. It was so foggy. I couldn't see. I'm not shitting you, Morgan. If I was standing against the wall back here, I couldn't have seen into Logan's office. That's how horrible the visibility was. We're on our last run, so we decided, we were like, all right, let's all split up, just go our own pace down, so that way we're not worrying about anyone. I was caboose every time.
Snowboard?
She skied. She does the ski blades, you know, that are like really short skis.
Yeah.
She got to go down literally one time before Jameson broke, and she broke his wrist.
She's like, I'm done.
And then she was like, you know what? I don't need to be breaking anything.
Did he stay the rest of the week?
Yeah, he stayed the rest of the. He didn't go skiing again, obviously, or snowboarding again, obviously.
When she was 21, you could just chill in the lodge.
Yeah, but it actually made Dad happy, because Dad did one bunny hill, and he was like, I can't do it.
Maybe I need to try snowboarding.
You would really like snowboarding, but you know what? At the end of the week, what I said, or at the end of the trip, what I said is, you know what, Logan? I think next year I'm gonna have to actually like have a lesson and learn how to ski. Morgan, I can't believe I'm about to say this on mic, because I swore I wasn't going to say it out loud. I, for the first time in my life, felt my age in an activity. Yeah. Like, it felt like day 7 of cheer camp when I was 16 on like hour 1.
Yeah, just
and my knees
everything.
Were aching, like back was bothering me, my hips were getting to me. And there was at one point in our night skiing that I had to tell Logan, and because Logan's very, very fit, so like Logan can go do whatever, and like, you know, he might hurt, but he doesn't give a fuck. He's so high energy, and he's like so fit, he can do whatever. I'm not like that. I made them go do like 2 runs without me, because they were like, we need to do 3 more, and I was like, y'all go do 2 and I'll be on the last.
I'll be right here.
Yeah, so they did 2 more. They come back up. We're on our way down, very last run of the entire trip. We're going to go down and return our stuff. I'm very last. And so by the time I get down there, like Logan, Phoebe, and her boyfriend are all sitting there chatting. And I hear Logan being like, it's him over there. So I pull the fuck up. And I'm like, who did what over where?
You hoverboard over.
Yeah, I did. I hoverboard straight up to them. Phoebe's like, this guy was being crazy. And I was like, no, this guy. So I pointed at this guy who's being fucking crazy. And Logan's like, I'll tell you what happened when we get in the car. And I was like, oh, normally Logan's like, doesn't give a fuck who hears what at any time. So I was like, okay, something weird happened. Are you hurt? What's going on? Do we need to go to like the tent? And he's like, no, I'm fine. But like it hurt. But that guy like got laid out. And I was like, okay. So he tells me the story on the way home. And essentially this guy, Logan's carving wide because it's so icy. And he hears on your right. The second that he hears that, he gets knocked the fuck out, like goes flying, like spins head over top, like cartwheels down the mountain. He lands, this guy's skis yard sale. I mean, and the guy is like crumpled up 50 yards down the mountain from where Logan's at. So Logan picks up the pole and the ski that's nearest to him, and he goes over to the guy and he's like, hey dude, are you okay? And the guy's like, dude, I said on your right. And Logan said, dude, you said on your right when you fucking hit me. Like, yeah. I can't do anything about that. And you were going way too fucking fast. And the guy's like, man, this kid had to be like 23 or whatever. And the guy's like, man, you're right. I was going crazy. I should have let you know beforehand. I wasn't paying attention. I was just flying. And he's like, are you okay? And Logan's like, yeah. And Logan's like, are you good? And he's like he couldn't talk. Like this guy was fucked up.
Oh my God.
Like wind knocked out of him and everything. He hit like a brick wall when he hit Logan. And this guy is like tall and scrawny and lanky. And so about that time, as Logan's like being like, can I help you up? The guy's like, I just need to lay here for a little bit. And Logan's like, do you want me to call for help? Like, do you want me to get a medic over here? And he's like, no. And as he's saying that, this guy's girlfriend comes up. But she's like, oh my God. Oh. And so Logan was like, I just literally kept going. I couldn't take that. I had to go back down. So Logan gets down. We get back home and we get into like the mud room to take off all of our stuff. And immediately I lift up his shirt and like pull down his pants to see what's going on. And literally like, you know where like your pants hit you if you were wearing not high rise, but just like regular rise pants hit you. There was, I'm not shitting you, this long. How many inches do you think this is? 3 inches? You think about 3? 4 inches?
You're about 10 inches there.
That is not 10 inches. 4 inches?
Your finger is about 3 inches.
Okay, well, about however much you think this is, I'd say. I'll show you guys on YouTube. Logan has a gash in his back so deep that when I saw it, it made me like ill. And all I could think was it's directly on like where his spinal cord meets his pelvis. I was literally like, you could have gotten like really, really fucking hurt by this guy doing that. It made me want to go back and find the fucking kid and beat his ass. Seriously.
Yeah.
We had those like whatever, the
butterfly.
Yeah, band-aids. Those things. So we put those on him. We put like a bunch of gauze over it and we cleaned it and we just left it like that. And Mom was like, I think you should take him to get stitches. I'm like, I ain't going to the fucking hospital to get stitches.
Who's paying that bill? Not us.
You know what I did? I put glue on him when we got home.
Like skin glue?
No.
Taylar.
I put real glue. That's all I had. He agreed to it. My grandpa did that for every scar he had. And Morgan, it's completely healed. It's complete. I mean, it's gonna be a scar.
Meanwhile, he's got a blood infection going on.
Yeah, truly, but he's fucking healed. I'll tell you that much. So yeah, he's good. He might have a spinal cord infection, but he's good. But yeah,
so I'll be testing his spinal fluid.
Yeah, 100% in a few weeks. But yeah, so that happened.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, if we go to Vail, I'll be in the lodge. You won't see me on a lift. You won't see.
You would love snowboarding with me because I'm taking breaks.
I do like breaks.
I'm taking regular breaks and I'm just like having a little fun. I'll get like a little crazy. There was at one point I was going so fast, Morgan, that the ice was scraping underneath me. And when I got done, I had to lay on the side for like 5 minutes and breathe for a minute because I was like,
what the fuck was that?
I was so fucking scared.
How dare they?
I was like, I literally thought I was about to die. I truly did.
That's so
I was
funny.
scared. Yeah.
Because you're like that. I'm in the ocean snorkeling. I'm in there for like 10 minutes. Yeah. I'm like, all right, well, Megalodon's under here, so I'm gonna get out of here. I'm done. That was enough for me. Thanks, guys. You could hear the whales underwater, and I was like, they're coming for me.
They're definitely.
Meanwhile, I'm in the underwater like
talking to them. Yeah,
and then I would like have to get back out because I'm like, they know exactly who I am.
Yeah.
Now. They're
coming for me.
Yeah.
They're searching for me.
They're gonna swallow me like they did that Venezuelan guy or wherever that was.
Literally.
I forget, Chile.
Yeah, wherever the fuck that was. But someone did get swallowed by and
spit back out.
Jonah in the belly of the well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, I mean, it was scary. I thought I'd die, but I'm here. I'm like, oh,
if I got swallowed by a whale and came back out, I'd be like, we're gonna have to call it. And I'm gonna write a book about it during
like,
those.
what are the odds that even happens?
No,
that's biblical.
Does that happen a lot? Or like, someone tell us. We gotta go. We got to go because I have a long case.
We miss you guys. We'll dive more in on Patreon Pipe and Hot Goss. If you're driving, throw that shit on cruise control.
If you got a glass, pour that shit up.
And let's get
creepy. Okay, Morgy-poo, for your first episode back, first real case in a hot bit.
I know.
What you got to say?
It was feeling weird doing notes, I'm not gonna lie.
I know, it really was.
Today, I'm doing a case that was actually sent in by our bestie Gidget.
Oh my God.
Our Patreon request chat. So that was really cool. And she had just sent it too.
So it was perfect.
Yeah. Sorry, this is what I wrote. Today, I have a crazy, unimaginable case for you. This is the Quaker Oats Experiment.
I am so excited. Let's go.
There's nothing like waking up in the morning and getting a nice hot bowl of oatmeal. Maybe you have some cut up fruit in it, or a little, aka a huge spoonful of brown sugar on top.
100%.
It's never just a little. Or maybe you dreaded seeing oatmeal on the table for breakfast as a kid. But nonetheless, it was a filling meal full of fiber and other nutrients, and that's what your parents sold you.
You're gonna shit within the hour.
That was the way Quaker Oats sold it to your parents. That's the way it was advertised. And it was just the perfect way to start your day, because breakfast, my friends, is the most important meal of the day.
If you didn't know.
Unfortunately, this wasn't the case for a group of children in Massachusetts in the 1940s through the 50s. Specifically, those boarded at the Fernald State School. The Walter E. Fernald State School was located in Waltham, maybe, Massachusetts. This school was the product of the American eugenics movement that was dedicated to, quote, furthering the discussion, advancement, and dissemination of knowledge about biological and sociocultural forces which affect the structure and composition of human populations, according to the American Eugenics Society. It was really just a push to find the best way that humans could, quote, be improved through selective breeding of populations. And to put that in the easiest terms possible for our listeners and our besties out there, it was a movement to push an agenda of scientific racism.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
That is
AKA,
fucking crazy.
They wanted to use the legitimacy of science to argue for the superiority of white people and the inferiority of non-white people whose social and economic statuses have been historically marginalized. So this grew out of three things. Number one is the misappropriation of revolutionary advances in medicine, anatomy, and statistics during the 18th and 19th century. Number two, Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, or Darwinism, through the mechanism of natural selection. And number three, Gregor Mendel's law of inheritance, which I actually don't know what that is. But if you guys are science buffs, philosopher buffs, physics buffs, then I wanted to include that for you.
I feel like we talked about it before, and we had this exact same conversation. Isn't it,
we were like, inheritance?
Isn't it like where people that are like two gifted, so like, let's say two Olympic athletes, they get married so that way they would breed
an Olympic athlete.
An Olympic athlete.
I think you're actually right.
Right? Yeah. That's might be like the vaguest, stupidest example of it, but I feel like we've gone through this.
Yeah. This movement then put lasting effects and racially charged myths, particularly on people of color, people with disabilities, and the LGBTQ plus communities that are unfairly, these myths, still around today. The Fernald State School was built in 1888 and was originally named the Massachusetts School for the Feeble-Minded. I don't like that term, but that was the name of the school.
Okay.
It was a mental institution at first for people with disabilities, but by the time the third superintendent, who was literally, I'm not kidding you, had to have been the brother of Adolf Hitler, came into play, this was changed. This third superintendent, Walter E. Fernald, as soon as he comes in, they're like, we should name it after him. This man is the best. That's why they got the name. So Walter E. Fernald, aka now the Fernald State School, was named the third superintendent of the school. And he was a proud and public advocate of the eugenics movement. More so that he believed that the best way to improve society and the general human race was to separate the unwanted and inferior people, that's a quote, not my words, so that they could not breed. Now, on paper, this was only applied to people with disabilities. But pretty quickly, the eugenics-obsessed warden began taking in perfectly capable patients who were simply poor or orphaned or not white or children who were just dumped at the school because their parents could no longer afford them.
This is fucking sickening.
Yeah.
Already, we're not even into it.
And it had been estimated that this was the case for over 50% of his patients / students. So they were not disabled. They were either poor,
orphaned,
yeah,
or just abandoned,
etc. Institutions like Fernald, almost 100 across the United States, were designed to house, isolate, and in certain cases forcibly sterilize children who were considered inferior in the eugenics movement. I thought was a not so fun fact, but needed to be included.
Not so fun fact.
Almost 100 across the U.S.
A fucking awful fact.
Yeah. The facility sat on 186 acres and had its own power plant with multiple buildings throughout the grounds. Despite its size, the conditions were everything that you would expect from a facility like this. Inadequate, overstuffed dorms, sometimes 30 children to a room that would house 2. Now, majority of these children were boys. Like, this was a boys' school, but it wasn't an all-boys school. Therefore, there were girls housed there, and I never saw it once confirmed that this was a boys' school, but I read some, like, statements from victims, and they were female victims.
Yeah.
At its highest, the institution housed 2,500 kids, and to cut costs, the children were responsible for most of the manual labor around the grounds. They grew the veggies that they ate. They crafted the shoes that they wore. They built the brooms that they would then sweep the floor with. And then, of course, as we all would expect, there was the abuse. Corporal punishment was a way of life at Fernald. Even the slightest mistake, minor offenses, or even for no reason at all, these children were physically abused. So trigger warning here for child abuse. The staff held a routine scheduled event called Red Cherry Day. During this day, they would sit the children in a circle and they would call up each child alphabetically. So A last names first, B last names, etc. The kids would then have to get up in front of everyone, pull down their pants, pull down their underwear, and be forced to turn around. The staff would then proceed to whip the children in the butt with a branch until it was red like a cherry.
Oh my fucking God.
And they're like mandatory Red Cherry Day. The kids are fucking petrified, and the staff is like, hell yeah.
Oh no. Like, and think about, there's girls here too. Like, girls go through puberty way before boys do, and like that's so upsetting.
Yeah. And as you would expect, the children were also victims to sexual abuse. Many kids would rebel, attempt to run away, but this is a 186 acre facility.
Right.
And that is a far fucking run. So more often than not, the children were caught, they were sent back to the school, and this is when they were placed in Ward 22, where they were stripped naked and locked in solitary confinement with no clothes on their back, no blanket, no nothing. There's no fucking heat. This is Massachusetts we're talking about, and gave very to little, no food for weeks on end.
Oh my God.
The Fernald State School was just a name because this was no school at all, even though it was advertised as a school for your child. There was no education. According to Michael D'Antonio, author of the book The State Boys Rebellion, who was actually a victim, says, quote, "It was a school in name only. A child would experience the first year of school 5 or 6 times in a row. He would read the same Dick and Jane reader and never make any progress because the school wasn't equipped to actually educate children. It was just there as sort of a holding pen, like for animals." Things started to turn around for the kids when in 1946, they announced that they would be creating a science club. Those who were members of the science club would be able to experience all sorts of perks, including extra oatmeal milk for breakfast, tickets to the Boston Red Sox games, access to all sorts of field trips. They'd go to the beaches. They would get gifts like Mickey Mouse watches. And given their current and past experience at school, children were running to join the science club. This was a huge opportunity to get out of the grounds, go on field trips, to get gifts, to have extra food. You know, they were probably fucking limited.
They were just like, fucking, I want to do anything but what this is.
Yes. Finally, a chance to feel like a kid rather than an animal locked up. And because the selling point of the science club was so grand, kids signed up by the hundreds. Those with parents did receive a consent form from the school administration. But again, a lot of these children were orphans, so they had no one advocating for them. But this is what the consent form said. I wanted to read it. "Dear parent, in previous years, we have done some examinations in connection with the nutritional department of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, with the purposes of helping to improve the nutrition of our children and to help them in general more efficiently than before. For the checking up of the children, we occasionally will need to take some blood samples, which which are then analyzed. The blood samples are taken after one test meal, which consists of a special breakfast meal containing a certain amount of calcium. We have asked for volunteers to give a sample of blood once a month for 3 months, and your son has agreed to volunteer because the boys who belong to the science club have many additional privileges. They get a quart of milk daily during that time, they are taken to a baseball game, they're taken to the beach, and to some outside dinners, and they enjoy it greatly. I hope that you have no objection that your son is voluntarily participating in this study. The first study will start on Monday, June 8th, and if you have not expressed any objections, we will assume that your son may participate. Sincerely yours, Dr. Clemens E. Benda, Clinical Director. So, I mean, if my mom got that letter, she'd be like, I mean, honey, are you okay with getting blood drawn? I'd be like, yeah, Mom, that's fine.
Yeah.
I like science club. This is for science.
Right.
And so my mom's gonna be like, all right, that's fine. Bye-bye.
Fine.
But one thing that they failed to mention in this consent form, and to the children who had no advocates and were just eager and excited to join a science club and to get the fuck out of the hell house,
right,
was that this wouldn't be a regular nutritional study. These special breakfast meals were laced with radioactive tracers.
What?
Robert Harris, who was a professor of nutrition at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, led 3 different experiments involving 74 Fernald boys from ages 10 to 17. As part of the study, the boys were fed oatmeal and milk laced with radioactive iron and calcium. In another experiment, scientists directly injected the boys with radioactive calcium. Now, I do want to note here that the Fernald students experiment was just one among dozens of radiation experiments approved by the AEC, which is the Atomic Energy Commission. Between 1945 and 1962, more than 210,000 civilians were exposed in the United States to radiation, oftentimes without knowing it.
Right.
And we see that in a lot of the
cases.
And
that's what's not fucking classified during this time when they're literally building the atomic bomb.
Right.
So
yeah, this is like peak Manhattan.
Yeah.
But what does the Atomic Energy Commission and radiation have to do with fucking cereal with oatmeal? According to the Smithsonian, at the time, scientists were eager to conduct experiments concerning human health, eugenics. And the booming breakfast cereal industry meant that there was big money to be either made or to be lost. And Quaker wanted in on this potential scientific money pot.
Quaker, shut your bitch ass up.
They were in a bit of a bind.
I'm sure they fucking were.
Their competitors, Cream of Wheat, was stomping them. Especially when research was released that plant-based grains like oats suggested that they contain high levels of phytate, or a naturally occurring cyclic acid. Now, the problem with this is that high levels of phytate were being linked to the lower absorption of iron. So imagine this era where iron, iron's important. Iron's important. Yes, oat was also classified as like one of the nutritional like balances of breakfast, like at the time by like the whatever.
Up until literally the early 2000s.
But if I'm a parent, and what's more expensive, a bag of oatmeal or a fucking cow?
Yeah.
To get my iron.
Right.
Red meat. I'm going to be like, okay, well, I can't be absorbing this oatmeal, one, because now I got to double up on my cow because the oatmeal is taking away my iron. It's not letting my body absorb iron.
Right.
So this was like a huge problem. So a lot of people are like, okay, well, fuck you, oatmeal. I'm going to Cream of Wheat.
Right.
And Quaker,
and honestly,
Oats was like,
no. Quaker, you were disgusting. Like, sorry. Okay, cool. First brand ever in the United States. Really big deal. Fucking his face on it. Cool. Like, I love the advertising history of Quaker Oats. Don't get me wrong. I'm fucking all about it. But they would sell it back in the day. They used to sell it by the fucking barrel for like fucking pennies on the dollar. And then once they started putting like flavorings in it and shit, because they had to compete with cereal over the years.
Right. Then Kellogg comes into play and they're like,
yeah, fuck.
Have you ever watched that Amy Schumer movie?
Yes, it's
Kellogg,
so good.
And like Quaker Oats comes in, kidnaps everyone, takes them to the fucking dairy farm.
Yes. And they're all in like pilgrim outfits.
Yeah.
It's fucking hilarious. Yeah, no, literally. And so at this point in time, when all that research came out, and they literally were shitting their fucking pants because they're like, okay, we put sugar in it, we made it taste good, we did it, but that put their prices up so much that you could get those little fucking bags for, and people are like, I'm just rather have fucking grits than that. And then when those nutritional shit came out, Quaker started shitting their fucking pants. That's when they started making their bars and stuff.
Yeah, they were struggling.
Of course, I know the fucking history of Quaker Oats brand.
Okay, so this research is released about oats and how they could inhibit the absorption of iron in the body. But their competitor, cream of wheat, well, they didn't have this problem, pushing consumers to go to the cream of wheat route. And actually, I do just want to say, I don't know if my mom was on something, but I was a cream of wheat kid.
I never was.
I was not an oatmeal kid. We did not have oatmeal in the house. I was a cream of wheat, milk, sugar, strawberries kid.
Yeah, I was oatmeal and grits.
Yeah, well, you're a Quaker kid. Quaker Oats
look
kid.
At that. Well, I did. I fell for it.
When parents and families started doing this was big fucking trouble for Quaker Oats. And in response to this new finding, Quaker wanted to do their own research. They're like, actually, FDA or whoever released that information about the nutritional and iron and all that shit, we don't believe you. So they reach out to MIT and Harvard, and they express their interest in launching a research program pertaining to this issue, their issue that they're currently facing as a company. And MIT and Harvard are like, yeah, I mean, we actually know a guy nearby that runs a facility, huge eugenics guy. Like, he'd be so down for a little bit of unethical research. If you wanted me to just propose it to him, obviously I'm imagining how that conversation went, but like that makes sense in my head.
Me too.
And however it went, they decided that the school would be the best place to go about this study. And basically it went like this. Quaker supplied the cereal, they supplied the funds, MIT received the funding for the research, and the school provided free breakfast and entertainment for its students, and more than likely a nice fucking check from Quaker Oats. If I had to guess, not documented, just an assumption.
I'm gonna say so.
Specifically, probably the fucking warden.
You're right.
The eugenics freak warden.
He got free fucking Quaker Oats for life, at least.
Like I said, MIT professor of nutrition Robert S. Harris led the experiment, which studied the absorption of calcium and iron. And they marketed this fun little experiment by convincing children to join the science club. The study ran 3 different times over a course of about 15 years. In the 3 experiments, the boys at Fernald ate oats coated with radioactive iron tracers, milk with radioactive calcium tracers, which are just, these tracers are radioactive atoms whose decay, like you absorb it, and then when you excrete it, whether urine, stool, or even blood, it's then studied. So how much decay it has, I guess, is measured to understand chemical reactions happening in the body with these specific...
To figure out if your body's actually taking it in.
Yes, or if it's like hurting you in any way, shape, or form. And then the boys were also given injections of radioactive calcium. According to the Smithsonian, again, the first 2 experiments results were encouraging to Quaker because what they learned is that oatmeal was actually no worse than farina, which is cream of wheat, when it came to inhibiting absorption of iron and calcium into the bloodstream. And the 3rd experiment showed that calcium entering the bloodstream goes straight to the bones, which would prove really important actually in later studies of osteoporosis. It's such a fucking shame that it came this way. Nonetheless, the children were fed Quaker Oats oatmeal every day for an unknown amount of time, and their blood, feces, and urine were analyzed to look for the radioactive tracers and how much decay was left. It wasn't until 4 decades passed, 40 years, that these children of this school, now adults, would have any idea that they were subject to this during their time in the science club.
Oh my God.
In 1993, the Secretary of Energy, Hazel O'Leary, declassified a number of AEC or Atomic Energy Commission documents. And the Quaker Oats experiment was one of them. Why? Because the AEC, the Atomic Energy Commission, indirectly, unknowingly, sponsored the study with a contract. They sponsored it because they had a contract to the radioactive center at MIT.
Wow.
They didn't know, though.
Oh, okay. I'm sure you didn't know.
Yeah,
We're going to use radioactive calcium and iron, but we didn't know that.
And these kids...
We didn't know.
When these were declassified, it hit the news, and they were urging victims of the school, these students, to come forward. There was a hearing before the Senate's Committee on Labor and Human Resources in January of 1944, where David Litzer, who was the representative at MIT at the hearing, said the experiment involving oatmeal only exposed the boys to like 170, 330 millirems of radiation.
Okay.
Which is like, I mean, like, it's just like the equivalent of receiving 30 consecutive chest x-rays back to back to back to back to back to back to back.
Only 30.
Only 30. It's like, it really wasn't that big of a deal. He said that it has such a low dose of radiation that it's difficult to measure. You know, I mean, let me reenact him. I mean, it's just such a low dose of radiation. It's really difficult to measure medical and biological effects of that. Let's say a child exposed to that dose would have a 1 in 2,000 chance of contracting cancer, which, I mean, that's like barely higher than the average rate.
In the 90s? Maybe today.
Yeah, maybe today.
Maybe today. But in the 90s?
And in the 40s when this was happening?
Right. In the 40s.
This was 50 fucking years ago.
Literally.
Anyway, a Massachusetts state panel concluded after a study and speaking with people who were in this trial unknowingly that none of the students suffered significant health impacts and that we actually do still use radioactive tracers in medicine today. And that is true, except for the fact that this wasn't the fucking issue. Still an issue, yes, but the real problem was that these boys, children that are already so vulnerable due to no parents or guardians looking out for their best interests, being their advocates, were used for experiments without their consent.
And abused.
You fucking played them.
Yeah. And you didn't even pay them.
You were like, extra food. And of course they're running for it.
Starving
they're
to death.
Starving.
Yeah.
That's the fucking problem in this situation. It was unethical. The Smithsonian said that when the case went to court, 30 former Fernald students filed suit against MIT and Quaker Oats. In 1995, President Clinton apologized to the Fernald students, and he, the president of the United States of America then, is actually one of the only people to apologize. The institute didn't apologize, and neither did the colleges.
MIT?
Yeah, to the Fernald students because of the AEC involvement.
Because they couldn't admit guilt, essentially. Them apologizing would be like, well, we were...
But President Clinton did because he was connected to AEC.
Yeah, of course. Because,
A settlement for $1.85 million was reached in January of 1998. And Fernald State School was open until it closed in 2014. Yeah.
Wow.
The craziest takeaway from this is the claim that we all know and heard growing up, that you need to drink your milk because it helps build strong bones. Well, next time someone pulls that shit on you, you let them know that that claim derives from the non-consensual human experimentation of children.
And then middle finger it up and walk the fuck out.
And then mic drop them and continue on with your day.
Yes.
And that is my case.
Got milk, bitch.
Got milk, bitch.
Bitch. Literally. What the fuck, Morgan?
Like, and I mean,
what the fuck was...
and I hate that the advancements at this study, unethical
we talked about that multiple times. And like, in a lot of cases of like unethical things.
Like a serious basis for a multitude of disease.
Yeah.
Osteoporosis being one.
But it doesn't make it right.
Right. But it doesn't make it right. But
also because, look around at what was going on in the world at this point in time. We have... Unit 731. We've got everything going on within the Nazi
whatever the
Germany.
Fuck was going on up there. Manhattan Project, the Tennessee Vanderbilt. I learned this. I have to cover this. Same year, Tennessee Vanderbilt shot up like radioactive something into like 270 pregnant women.
What?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
During this era.
Exactly. Like this, people were going fucking rogue and they were using the cover of war to get away with fucking shit. Yeah. It's like, okay, like that's not fucking cool. Like you still, like it doesn't matter what the fuck's going on in the world. In fact, we should be honestly looking around and saying, hey bitch, is the world gonna fucking end today? Is a rapture about to happen? But no, instead they're like, I want to inject you with fucking radioactive material.
Right.
And that makes you wonder what's happening like right now.
Because like, and maybe radioactive tracers aren't that, I don't think we really know the scientific effect of them long term. And maybe they aren't that bad, but you're fucking putting them in children unknowingly, unwillingly, and that's the fucking problem.
Like, is there going to be one day that we're all just fucking radioactive?
And one of the, maybe I can try to find that article and link it, but it was one of the ones I found on my like work computer today, and then I could not find on my Mac because it's a different browser. You know how it fucking does that?
Yeah.
Couldn't find it on my Mac, couldn't find it on my phone, but I'm going to try to vaguely remember it. Maybe someone else can find it. One of the victims in the suit at the hearing, he was like, why us? Why did you pick us who are so vulnerable? Why didn't you go to the public or the private school down the street?
Right.
Why didn't you go? And he was like, pointing out all these things. They had no fucking answer.
Yeah, because they were going to get sued by rich mommy and daddy.
And they knew that they could fucking bypass it with their crazy warden.
And if the kids were sick as a result of these studies, then no one would fucking know about it. The school would hide it. But if they were doing it at like private schools where mommy and daddy were millionaires, like of course they're going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with my kid?
Yeah.
Horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's sickening. It's disgusting. I hate it.
Thanks, Gidget.
Thanks, Gidget.
Thanks for that one, Gidget.
But I'm glad we know this shit because like I otherwise would have no fucking idea because America does such a great job at conveniently leaving out a lot of fucking details when pointing the finger.
Especially those big companies involved like Quaker Oats.
MIT, don't forget. Like this
Harvard.
is MIT and Harvard.
I want to mention Harvard here. Harvard was briefly mentioned at the beginning whenever Quaker Oats reached out to them, and Harvard was in agreement and they did receive money for it. And then all of a sudden, Harvard's gone. And all the rest of the research.
Yeah.
They're like, actually, we weren't involved. Sorry.
They
MIT,
probably
take
very
that one.
quickly were like, oh.
Either
they left or they kept it hush-hush.
Yeah.
It went undercover, like that University of Pennsylvania thing that happened at the prison. Yeah.
Shit. Crazy.
Fuck. What was that, like Project Blue?
I forget what it was called.
Blue something?
Where they were like taking them, putting them in LSD chambers and like shit like that. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
That Morgan, that was fucking crazy. He was probably brothers with Warden.
No, truly, literally.
They're all brothers and cousins with fucking Adolf Hitler.
Literally, just all psychopaths.
And I think anyone is that obsessed with eugenics and like selective breeding, put them to sleep. Let's collectively put them in this
school in these tests. If you're obsessed with it, let's run the test on you.
Why are we
gonna have to run it on
children of America?
You're obsessed.
Most vulnerable people.
You think you're the top notch shit, right? Okay, well, perfect. We want to breed you.
We'll put you there.
We'll breed you, and we'll do the test on you.
Speaking of breeding, I know this is off topic. Did you see the Atlanta thing?
No.
There was a like egg farm where did you see that?
No, but I've heard, I saw something about it, but I didn't ended up reading it.
Sick.
You know what I saw the other night? Woman goes to like a fertility center. She's single. Wants to have a baby. They give her, she picks her donor, whatever. Embryo, put her in her. Fucking wrong embryo. Not even her baby, another couple's baby. And then the couple sued her, got the baby. So now she's got no baby and went through 9 months of pregnancy, went through birth, paid all that fucking money. And now she's got not that like it's right for her to keep the baby. It's not her fucking baby. But like.
But is it?
But like, is it? Like, is it her baby? Is that nature versus nurture? Or like, how's that go?
I don't think I know that's so new to us.
So new.
You know what I mean? Like, this is like, we're going to be seeing probably a lot more of it.
Oh yeah. Well, it's been going on for years. Like from that to like people getting like donors mixed up or dad being different or mom being different. Like these people have babies through IVF or whatever the fuck. And then it's not even their fucking baby. Like
there's no fucking regulations on it.
No regulations on it.
So like really these.
And then these doctors, these psycho fucking doctors were using their sperm.
Shit. Yeah.
Horrid. Again, those people need to be tested. Gather them up.
Eugenics school.
We're taking
sponsored by Creeps and Crimes.
Literally.
Send us
your favorite psychos. We'll do eugenics on them.
We'll put them in. We're now eugenics.
Yeah, this is what is this? That's fucking horrible. Okay, Morgan. Well, good case, Gidget. Thanks so much for suggesting that.
Thanks,
and
Gidget.
On to my case that I'm gonna go ahead and apologize for.
Let them know. Are you gonna break the news?
I'm gonna break the news here in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I was like, that's not the news. She's fucking lying to you
That's
guys.
not all the news, bitch. Okay, but we will be right back because I have to pee.
Yeah.
So this is a case that I have been wanting to cover since season 2. Actually, before that, in 2019, when I first heard the case, maybe even before that, maybe like 2018 when I first heard the case. I've always talked about this case. I've always been obsessed with it. It's just wild to me, and it's just one of those cases that never leaves you once you hear it. And I'm sure the majority of our like crime people over here know what I'm talking about whenever we'll get into it. But I've been wanting to cover this on the podcast since season 2. I started notes at the end of season 3. Then I was like, okay, wait, I need to order some books so I can like get more research done. So I ordered the books at that time towards the end of season 3, but it wasn't until after moving into this house in the beginning of season 4 that I actually began reading the books. Stopped and started, made notes throughout the books as I was reading them. I just like never got around to covering it or completing my notes because I always felt like I don't have all the information I want to have. It's not going to be the way I want to cover it. But there was a recent update in the case like last week. So I decided when that update came through, like, all right, I'm gonna freaking do it because I was trying to be proactive. I was gonna get all my notes done for the next 2 weeks while Morgan was gone. Didn't happen. I fell into this case. I couldn't get it off my fucking mind. Literally, I was so beyond with it. I finally decided it was time that we were gonna start this journey. And when I say journey, it's going to be a bit of a journey for me to get through this because I have years worth of shit I've been researching. So today I am telling you the case of the Beaumont children. My fucking crime people on here are like, bitch, everyone's been talking about this week because I fucking know. Well, I know.
I actually know nothing.
Yeah,
I
that's good.
Haven't seen anything in the news, so
that's good. But all my creeps people are like, ooh, let's get into it. All my crime people are like, bitch, everyone's fucking talks about this week. I know, but trust me, it's my research.
creeps people squat up.
You know, I fucking dug into this. So just stick with me. And there's stuff in here that's going to be pretty, of course, like basic to the timeline that you've heard on every other podcast that has covered it. But I have done, like I normally do, and overdone it. So let's get into it. It's January 26, 1966 in Adelaide, which is the coastal South Australian state capital sitting on the St. Vincent Gulf. It's like a coastal city. It's fucking gorgeous. Of course, everyone knows where Adelaide is.
The name, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I live in Adelaide.
Stunning.
That alone.
Imagine meeting a blonde-haired girl, model, blue-eyes, tan
from
skin.
Adelaide.
Not even, her name's Adelaide. Aquamarine.
Well, that reminds me of the age of Adelaide.
Well, she ruined that, and we can't even talk about that. Still a great movie though. Slash book.
I've actually never finished it.
You never have? You have to.
I think I always fall asleep. There must be a lousy part.
There's like a lull in it, but that's when the lull is where it gets fucking whack.
Say lull one more time today.
Lull.
I don't like that word.
Lull. Lull, 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 lull.
That's what it sounds like.
That's what it sounds like.
Lollipop.
So that day, January 26th, because as we all know, the seasons are opposite to us, so January is our summer. It was an extremely hot day. There was this massive summer heat wave coming through. I'm talking 40 degrees Celsius, which is roughly 104 degrees Fahrenheit. It was hot as fuck.
Yeah.
Hot as fuck. Because of that, all of the beaches were popping with people cooling off in the water, sitting in the shade under, in the sand underneath their umbrellas, using the winds as like a breath of fresh air, because it was better to be honestly outside with the wind than to be stuffed up in your house.
On the beach also.
Yeah. It was a big day for Australians also because it was Australia Day, which is celebrated every January 26th, marking the day that the first fleet arrived to Australia and raised the Union flag of Great Britain. So in some respects, but not all of them because we weren't raising the Union flag, it's like their 4th of July. Mm-hmm. We were like, literally. That morning, 9-year-old
eugenics. That's what we were like.
Yeah.
Radiation, atomic weapons. Yeah, baby.
Exactly. So that morning, 9-year-old Jane, 7-year-old Arna, and 4-year-old Grant Beaumont begged their mother to allow them to go to the nearby Glenelg Beach to play. Now, some people include the G in it. Other people do not include the G in it, and they just say Glenelg. But in the Australian pronunciations that I heard from Australians talking, they have the G at the end. It's spelled Glen, Glen, ELG. And they say it's like kennel. So Glenelg Beach.
Glenelg.
Yes. To play. This is something that they often did. In fact, they had done this just the day before on Tuesday, January 25th, because that morning their father, 41-year-old Jim Beaumont, who was formerly a serviceman and taxi driver turned salesman, had dropped the children off at Glenelg Beach on his way out of town for a 3-day sales trip in Snowtown. And just as they had done in the past, the 3 children would play at the beach until noon, at which point they would pack up their stuff and either walk the 3 kilometers or roughly 1.9 miles home or take the 5-minute bus ride back home. And on Tuesday, January 25th, they had done just that after their father had dropped them off. And because of how trustworthy and responsible the children were, specifically the oldest, 9-year-old Jane, 39-year-old Nancy agreed that they could 100% go to the beach for Australia Day. The siblings were very, very excited. They ran to go get dressed. Jane put on her favorite pink one-piece with pale green shorts over top and then canvas sand shoes. Arna wore her red and white striped one-piece with tan shorts and tan sandals, and Grant put on his green and white water suit or shorts. I think it's a water suit because then he puts on green cotton shorts over top and his red leather sandals. Jane then rushed to pack 3 beach towels in a green airline style shoulder bag. So to me, that's like a tote, or like a postal bag. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
Like a sack?
Yeah. Like the fold over on top of the buttons.
Yeah.
She puts the 3 beach towels inside, and she also shoved her favorite book that she was reading at the time, which was Little Women, in the bag with it.
Aww.
Because of it being the hottest day of the year, or one of the hottest days of the year, Nancy gave the children money, 8 shillings and 6 pence, to take the bus to and from the beach to have lunch while they were there, and then probably get a little ice cream, a little cool treat to chill out. as it was way too fucking hot for them to be walking the 20 minutes
and
to and from the beach.
If I had that money, I'd be skipping lunch. I'd be getting double ice cream.
I'd be getting triple ice cream. Exactly. And she instructs them to take the noon bus home as they had done the day before. So the midday bus. They all agree. They're like, yep, Mom, we'll be back on the noon bus. We love you. And Nancy hands Jane the money. She puts it into her little white purse that had like a clip top. She puts it into the bag with all of the beach towels and her book. And the kids say goodbye, hopping on the 10:15 a.m. bus, heading towards their favorite spot at the beach. Nancy spent that morning picking up around the house as she was waiting to get the kids out the door, keeping it cool, and then, doing like a little prep for dinner to save her time in the evening. So by the time that the kids left, she only had to like do a little bit more chores for like 15 more minutes before she was completely done. So it's like 10:30 at this point, and she's like, well, I've got nothing to do. So she hops on her little bike and she goes 2 streets over to hang out with her best friend. And she just like spent the morning with her best friend.
Hey,
that's so fucking fun. Leaving her friend's house just before noon so that way she could get to the bus stop to wait on the children.
So the kids weren't going to be gone long.
No, they left at like 10. It was going to be like a 2-hour ordeal. So the midday bus arrives at the spot on time, packed full, but there was only one person that got off at the stop that Nancy was waiting at, and it was this little old woman. Now, thinking that they had missed the midday bus, or maybe it was too packed for them to get on, and we're probably just going to be waiting on the 2 p.m. bus to bring them home, Nancy just rode her bike just the So Nancy rode her bike the short distance back home to wait on them. She wasn't that worried, not that big of a deal. I mean, like, of course she's like, that's weird, but she's like, Jane's got this. I don't have to fucking worry about it. And the wait ended up being a lot easier for her to do than she initially thought it was going to be, because as soon as she got back home and got settled again, I'm sure wiping her brow because it's 104 degrees outside,
for sure,
running her wrist under cold water, she gets a knock at the door. And it's her like other best friends. They were walking by, going to the bus, and they were still waiting on the bus. So they're like, we're just going to go hang out at Nancy's house. Stop by, hung out for a little bit. So fun. This is like literally my dream day.
Adelaide. I love that.
In Adelaide, just whatever. I guess they technically lived in the suburb of Somerton Park, which, reminding, that's Somerton Man.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just a little interesting crossover there. Now, either way, her friends come over. They hang out for a bit. They're just passing through. And Nancy, of course, like invites them inside. They have like a cold beverage. They're chatting. And as this is happening, she's keeping a very watchful eye on the clock, waiting for that 2 p.m. mark so that she can go wait on the kids at the bus stop, which was literally like just a few yards away from their house. 2 p.m. comes and it goes. And the children still did not return home. Thankfully, Nancy has her friends with her, and they're like, look, like, it's just a packed fucking day. They probably lost track of time. They're probably just going to end up walking home, to be quite honest. So I just really wouldn't worry about it. You know that Jane would call if there was a problem. And Nancy's like, you're right. Jane would have called me if there was a problem. Now, afraid to leave her house as her friends are leaving to go get on the bus to head into town, she decides to stay put and not go looking for them on her bike. And she's like, if anything, they're going to take the 3:30 p.m. bus to me, right? So she's eagerly watching out her front windows to wait and see if the children are just going to show up at any moment because they probably decided to walk home. But just before 3 p.m. though, she's shocked to see a car pull into her driveway. And it's not just anybody's car. It's her husband's car, Jim. And he gets out with his bag in tow. And he wasn't meant to return until the following day. He was supposed to be gone on a 3-day business trip. He had only left the day before. So she was thinking, I had the day off, bitch. So she sees her husband pull in, and
what the fuck are you doing
she goes up to him and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, look, sales were super slow because it's, of course, it's a holiday weekend. Not that many people are going to come here and do like sales with us. So he decides, instead of just waiting around and doing fucking nothing or beating a dead bush, he would rather spend the holiday with his family. So he just returned home. Nancy was so relieved to see him, immediately like pouring her heart out about the situation. They were supposed to come on the noon bus, but they didn't come. I thought they were going to come on the 2 o'clock. They didn't show up. So now my last hope is that they're going to be on the 3:30 bus here in about 30 minutes. And Jim comforted her, reminding her that there were 3 of them, number 1. And number 2, Jane, as well as Arna, were extremely responsible and capable little girls. You have to remember, this is 66.
And what are their ages again?
9, 7, and 4.
Okay.
So the 2 oldest girls, Jane and Arna, 9, 7, and the little boys 4.
Now today you would be raising eyebrows, but
right, then it's the 60s, you know, like this is what kids did back then. And they had so much freedom that they didn't have to worry about them, you know? Jim's reassurance really helped to calm Nancy's nerves as the 2 went inside and waited for that 3:30 bus to come. At which point, when they didn't show, Jim is now worried. He tells his wife to stay at the house and wait for the children just in case they showed, while he drove to the beach to search for them. Jim arrived at Glen Oak Beach and began looking around to try and spot his children. But the city, the streets, the parks, and the beaches, they were packed. There were thousands of people on the beach, in the water, on the streets, making it nearly, if not just completely impossible for him to spot his children in the crowds. So he returns home after just kind of like scanning around, hoping that Nancy would be inside with the children, giving them a snack or reprimanding them about what the fuck went down. But she wasn't. The kids were not home. Nancy was eagerly waiting outside for him, ran to him, and jumped in the car with her husband, unable to wait another second with her worry, and together they went back to the beach. Together, they combed the entire beach for hours in the blistering heat, where they found no sign of Jane, Arna, or Grant. They went back to their home just one last time, hoping and praying that the children would be there waiting on them. Unfortunately, though, they were not. So instead of waiting around any longer, Nancy and Jim drove to the Mosley Square police station, which was just across from the beach and the park that the children would go to. Other than some heat exhaustion and a few drunken fueled incidents or maybe a few burns from the barbecue, it was a rather chill day for the first responders. That is until at approximately 5:30 p.m. when Jim and Nancy Beaumont walked through the station doors. The worry on their faces were evident as they approached the clerk and reported their 3 children missing. Just as the parents had originally tried to do, the police didn't want to assume the worst. But after hearing Jim and Nancy out about the timeline, they also were concerned and immediately began their investigation, organizing searches at both Glen Oak Beach and the Beaumont's home, as well as the areas in between. As the sun began setting and slipped below the horizon at around 7:20, not around, because of course I had to look up exactly the time that the sun set in Adelaide on that day. When the sun slipped below the horizon at 7:28 p.m. in Adelaide that day, the search efforts ramped up, knowing that the children would not, under any circumstances, even in the 60s, stay out past dark. Adelaide police deployed 5 boats from the Sea and Rescue Squadron out into the St. Vincent Gulf, shining their bright spotlights across the dark waters and onto the beaches, while search parties were formed to comb the beaches inch by inch. At this point, the media began picking up on the fact that something was going on and were arriving at the scene. A bulletin was sent out at approximately 10 p.m. that evening to give all of the important details to the media and the public, asking for their help, hoping that someone watching the evening news that day had seen the children that day or knew where they were. Through the night, search parties, land, air, and sea, searched the areas, storm drains, rocky caves, beaches, forested areas, parks, and the divers searched the dark waters. By sunrise on the morning of Thursday, January 27th, the police were considering 3 possibilities. Number 1, the children were swept out to sea and drowned, as Jane was the only strong swimmer of the kids. Number 2, they ran away. And number 3, they were kidnapped. Pretty quickly, they were able to rule out drowning as a possibility because the sea was extremely calm that day and there were double the amount of lifeguards on duty, with it being such a big holiday. Not to mention the thousands of people that would have seen if children were in distress while in the water. Because you have to remember also, in the 60s, we didn't have as much as a bystander effect as we have today because we have phones. So we're like, oh, I'm sure someone else is calling, or oh, someone else is going to do something about that. In the 60s, there was like this community feel that like, oh, if there was something going on, many people would show up or respond on the scene or talk about it at least. But even more so than that, there were no signs of the children's belongings on the beach, would have been easily spotted on these now empty beaches with several searchers on them. And just like the drowning theory, the runaway theory was also quickly ruled out because these children were extremely happy. They had amazing parents and an amazing home life. There was nothing that investigators could find that would suggest that this would be the case, leaving them with only one possibility. Someone in broad daylight on one of the busiest days of the year was able to kidnap all 3 of the Beaumont children. If that was the case, someone had to have seen or heard something. Investigators relayed this information and their worries to the media and the family just before the sun rose on Thursday, the 27th. The morning news went out with all this information. Newspaper, radio shows, and TV news all ran the stories begging people to come forward with any information that they had. They detailed what the children were wearing that day, what they were carrying, what their towels looked like, the timeline of their day that was known by the parents and by police, and photos of Jane, Arna, and Grant. Within minutes of the news being released, hundreds and thousands of calls began flooding in with tips, eyewitnesses, information, and volunteers, leading to the biggest volunteer mobilization in Australian history.
Wow.
Investigators sifted through the ever-growing tips, determining which were credible and which were not. Using these witnesses, investigators began creating a timeline of the children's last known movements, starting with the local mail carrier, Tom, who passed by the children and greeted them. Specifically, little Grant was like, "Hi," as he walked by, as they made their way from their house to the bus stop just after 10 a.m. that morning on the 26th. Then the bus driver, who greeted the children as they climbed onto his 10:15 a.m. bus to the beach from the Somerton Park stop. Several witnesses reported seeing the three children playing in the shallow waters just north of the Glengall jetty that morning. Glenelg, sorry, I keep saying it different every single fucking time.
I know what you mean.
You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Beach.
The beach that they were at that starts with the G and might not be Glenelg or Glenelg. Either way, many of these people saw them playing just north in the jetty that morning, which was exactly where Jim, their dad, had dropped them off the day before when he was on his way out of town, as it was the best place for Arna and Grant, who weren't great super strong swimmers, to just splash around safely as it was super shallow. Then, according to witnesses, just after 11 a.m., the children got out of the water, packed up their belongings, and made the short walk from the jetty to Collie Reserve. Now, this was a park nearby that had like several benches, like walking areas, a large lawn with like shaded tree areas on it, water sprinklers for kids to like play in or rinse off at. And there, several other witnesses came forward reporting seeing the three children as they laid out their towels on the lawn before playing under the water sprinklers while washing the sand off of their bodies. Next, one of Jane's classmates saw and spoke with the Beaumont children at Collie Reserve at approximately 11:15 a.m. Now, up until this point in the timeline that investigators were compiling, all of the witnesses stated that the three children were alone. But after that 11:15 a.m. sighting by Jane's friend, the children were seen accompanied by an unidentified man, according to at least several, but at least three separate and credible sources. These three witnesses were able to describe the man in great detail to police. He looked to be in his late 30s, possibly early 40s. He was tall, approximately 6 foot, with a very athletic build. Like, they could tell that he worked out. The man had tan skin and a long, thin face with a high forehead and either light brown or a darker blonde hair that was semi-wavy but was neatly parted to one side and like gelled back. Who was wearing a distinctive pair of navy blue swim trunks that had a white stripe down the sides and spoke with a true Australian accent. The first of these three credible witnesses to see this man with the children was a 74-year-old local woman who was sitting on a bench in front of the Holdfast Sailing Club, not too far away from the spot where the children had laid out their towels on the lawn. The woman was just sitting there looking around when she watched as this man approached the children and began speaking with them before laying out his towel on the grass beside where theirs were laid out. As the children continued playing in the lawn, he laid down on his stomach and just watched them and was like making comments and like laughing and talking to them as they played in the grass beside him. The woman continued sitting on the bench observing the man and the children and watched as the children began jumping over the man as he laid on his towel before the eldest, which we know is Jane, began flicking the man and her two younger siblings with her towel, you know, like rolling it up and whacking them with it. As the woman left the park at approximately 11:30 a.m., she watched as the children and the man continued playing and, quote, frolicking around. Sometime between then and noon, the children went to the I think is how you say it, cake shop nearby the park and the beach on Mosley Street, where they often went for lunch in the area because it was right beside the bus stop that they would get off at to go to the beach. There, wearing only their bathing suits and shoes, no cover-ups, the children ordered 5 pastries, 6 finger buns, and 2 large bottles of soda. Before the middle child, Arna, added something along the lines of, quote, and 1 meat pie for the man. Now, this was a very large order compared to what the children would typically get, as they were pretty much regulars and recognized by not only the clerk that was checking them out and taking care of them, but the shop owner as well. But not only that, the clerk could not recall any time prior that the children had ever ordered a meat pie, so it stood out to him. The clerk agreed, got their order together, and then went to the register to complete their purchase, at which point the children handed over a £1 note, which, according to the Case Files podcast, was a significant amount of money in 1966, let alone for a child to be carrying on them.
That's not what their mother sent them with.
Exactly. It's not what their mother had sent them with.
You said Mosley Street. I've been following along with you.
Oh, good. I'm glad you are.
I'm like, Google said Collie Park.
Let me pull that up. No, literally. So Nancy, mind you, had sent them with 8 shillings and 6 pence in silver coins. So to me, that's like similar to a dollar coin and then 6 pennies. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that like equates, but in terms of what it looks like,
I'm thinking like $1.50.
Right. Yeah.
So like exactly 8 plus 3, they probably had $11.
But I could be wrong. And maybe they didn't have $11 because $11 in the 60s was probably a lot for kids to be toting around. Maybe. I don't know. Like,
yeah, I
don't understand what the money is.
Ways. You got lunch.
And I'm sure the bus was fucking 5 cents.
Yeah.
You know, like who knows? I don't know how much they were.
Maybe the 6 shillings, 2 for each.
Right.
That's 1 shilling.
Right. And so maybe that was the coins that they used. Mm-hmm. But then also they would have to use coins to get there. Mm-hmm. So then, and I think 6 pence is
that's
like.
That's what I meant. Pence. I bet the pence is however much. There's 3 kids.
Right.
There and back.
But I did see a coin that literally said 6 pence.
Oh.
So like, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know what the fuck it is.
And the guy had what? A ton?
£1 note. So like a dollar bill. And they didn't do, like, bills, like I said, were a big fucking deal. That was a lot of money for a kid to be toting around. Anyways, at this point, the children should have gone from the cake shop directly next door to the bus stop to catch that midday bus home. But instead, the store clerk, now our second witness, watched as Jane, Arna, and Grant walked out of his store and up to that same unidentified man. Now, he couldn't make out a full description of him, but he was like, they walked up to this man that had been waiting outside for them, which is also fucking weird that he's waiting outside. Like, why not just go in with them?
Right.
You're so comfortable to frolic around and lay around on the beach.
Kid.
Right, but like, you're not. So clearly this man gave them that £1 note, you know? Together, the man and the children walked back towards the direction of Collie Reserve, returning to their towels and other belongings that they had left behind, which was confirmed by several other witnesses. But specifically, I want to talk about the third and final of the 3 main credible witnesses that saw the children with the man that day. This was a middle-aged, also local woman who was seated with her husband on the lawn nearby where the children and this man's towels had been laid out on the lawn. But she hadn't just seen the man with the children. She had actually spoken to him, which is how investigators knew that he had that true Australian accent. The woman explained that she was approached by the man at approximately noon or just after noon, when he politely asked her if she or her husband had seen anyone rummaging through their belongings while they were away, as they had money that had been stolen, pointing behind him where the pile of belongings, including the bag, the purse.
He's referring to the kids.
The kids' stuff. And because don't forget, his towel's over there. But he's specifically referring to the bag, the purse, the towels, and the clothes that belong to the kids. Because remember, they only went to the cake shop in their bathing suits and their...
And this is after the cake shop.
This is after the cake shop. So they had left all that shit there, went to the cake shop, returned, and money had been stolen. He's like referencing behind him as she's just like a few feet away from where their stuff had been left. And she glances over. She sees the children standing near the belongings just behind the man, like looking towards them. The woman apologizes and she's like, no, I'm so sorry. We didn't see anyone. We didn't see anything. And the man thanks her very politely and just returns to the children and the belongings. She then watches as the man helped Jane and Arna put their shorts back on over their bathing suits, which stood out as odd to her because Jane, the oldest, was clearly old enough to not need help doing such a simple task such as putting on her own shorts. So that stood out to her as weird. Such a woman thing to clock.
Yeah.
You know, that husband probably was like, I didn't even see anything.
Yeah.
That man came up and talked to us? I didn't even know. Yeah, exactly. So the girls then helped Grant, the little brother, the 4-year-old, get back into his clothes and shoes before packing up all their belongings as the man left them to go to the nearby changing rooms that were on that like sailing club area that I was talking about that the old woman was sitting in front of. Now, the woman and her husband watched as the children patiently waited for the man on a nearby bench and then observed as the man returned and began walking towards the children that, again, were sitting on the bench. But this time, he had changed out of his trunks and was now wearing a pair of trousers and a towel as the couple got up and left the Collie Reserve. And they got up and left as he was walking out, and they saw what he was wearing at approximately 12:15 p.m. After this, there were no more confidently confirmed sightings of the Beaumont children or this man. Using these 3 credible witnesses, investigators created a composite sketch of the man. Unfortunately, though, it was rather vague. Even still, they blasted this photo out to the media and the public, just hoping that it would generate something or that someone would come forward, like the man would come forward and be like, oh yeah, I was with the kids that day.
I saw them at the park.
Yeah, I was
They need money.
Yeah, they needed money. I gave them some money because something got stolen from them, but that was last, like, he didn't even come forward, right? Though it did not lead to an ID, it did bring several other witnesses forward that had definitely seen that man with three children that day, matching all their descriptions, who were able to give even more details about this man's appearance, which allowed investigators to update the composite sketch and then resend it out to the public, which I'm going to actually show you, Morgan, but you guys can see it on our Instagram story, or if you're listening to this later in time, I did bring back the highlights because of the way that we've been doing the episode announcements. It'll be on there. So this is the composite sketch.
Oh God, he looks scary.
Yeah, but he's like not necessarily scary. He looks like a kind of put together, regular man.
Yeah, but he looks scary.
But he's scary because we know the context. Exactly. Yeah. Now, though this updated sketch didn't really help much with the timeline that they were building, it did help with several others coming forward that claimed to have seen the man and the children within the time that they knew that they were together already. So 11:30 to 12:15 p.m. that day. And what really stood out to investigators based off of all these witnesses' accounts was just how all of these witnesses reported the interactions between the man and the children had been. What I mean by that is that the children were completely at ease and very, very comfortable around this man, as if it was someone that they had known for their entire lives, leading investigators to believe that Wednesday, January 26th was absolutely not the first time they had interacted or met this man. Because as I said, the children often would go to the beach and play in this area with friends or just the 3 of them on their own. So maybe this man also frequented the area and had become a familiar face to the children prior. Though police and everyone wanted to believe that this man could have just been a kind person that was, helping them out, giving them money or whatever, they knew that that was not the case, considering he never came forward to identify himself. When explaining their thoughts to Jim and Nancy, everything I just explained to you, the police asked the couple if there was anything at all that they could think of where the children might have mentioned a friend that they had made in their past outings to the beach or to the reserve. And Nancy could only recall one prior instance that happened actually pretty recently, like a few weeks prior, when after returning home from the beach, Arna, while she was getting ready for bed with her mom, told her mother, Nancy, that Jane, her older sister, the 9-year-old, had met a boyfriend at the beach. At the time, she brushed off as just being like an innocent crush her sister maybe had told her little sister about, or her little sister overheard her talking with the classmate. Is probably just a classmate that was in the area. Like I said, they would go play with their friends there all the fucking time. But in hindsight, this made Nancy sick, especially after hearing the third witness's account of the man dressing Jane, because Nancy knew how Jane was. She had always, since being a small child, been very, very particular about her personal space and her body. It was incredibly out of character that Jane would have allowed a total stranger to touch her, much less help her get into shorts. Like, she wouldn't even let her mom do it. You know what I mean? I'm
getting sick.
No, I know. It gets even worse. Only supporting the investigators' theory that this was not the first time that the children had interacted with this man. He was likely a pedophile that had been grooming the Beaumont children for days or even weeks or months on their unsupervised visits to the beach. He knew their routine. Beach, the shallow area, then the park to wipe off everything in that little sprinkler system, dry off, go to lunch at the cake shop, it's why they were regulars there, and then take the bus or walk home by noon, which is likely why he was the one that stole their money and played like a concerned adult or friend of theirs, asking around if anyone had seen anything, once again gaining the children's trust and likely offering to take them home in his own car, which they likely would have accepted as they hadn't seen him as a threat in the past and saw him as a trusted adult or maybe even a friend. The man would have used the busy crowds of the holiday to comfortably move from place to place with the children, hiding in plain sight, not drawing any unwanted attention from witnesses. The children had been kidnapped and they were probably either been murdered at this point or were being held captive against their will.
Probably far away.
The media immediately jumped on this, leading to widespread fear that the abductor would strike again because they did not believe that this was the first time he had done this. In fact, many people believed that he had struck almost exactly a year prior on Wanda Beach. Just to give you some context, because this is important for you guys to know, Wanda Beach is in Sydney, Australia, which is a 15-hour drive or a 900-mile drive from Glenelg Beach in Adelaide. It was unsolved and had happened exactly a year prior at this point, so it was fresh on everyone's minds. And I'm going to tell you about that case right now. On Monday, January 11th, 1965, so literally almost exactly to the day a year prior, best friends and neighbors Marianne Schmidt and Christine Sherrock, both 15, along with Marianne's 5 younger siblings, hopped on the train from their stop in West Ryde, which is like a suburb just west of like the main city of Sydney. Can't get that out. Hopped on their train from West Ryde to Wanda Beach, which is just south of Sydney, Australia. Just as the friends had done for like they have done this like several days in the weeks and months prior. Now they arrive at the beach at approximately 11 a.m. But because of just how crazy the winds were that day, the beach was actually closed. The group decided to go to the southern end of the beach where there were these like large rocks that would give them a break from the wind. And there they played in the shallow waters before having a picnic. During this time, Christine walked away from the group for a little bit, was likely looking for these guys that they had hung out with, like they're also like their age guys that they had hung out with like 2 days prior when just her and Marianne came, and they had actually like kissed the guys and like wrote about it on their journals and all this stuff. Either way, she returns like a few minutes later, maybe even like 30 minutes later, at which point the group was like, all right, we're done being here. Let's go on a walk through the sand hills that were just behind the beach. So at around 1, they got to the Wanda Surf Club, where at this point, the young children were absolutely fucking unbearable. They were complaining about the wind and they're tired and they want to go home. So Marianne and Christine tell the kids, like, y'all just fucking stay here in the sand hills that were protecting them from the winds. And the two of them were going to walk back to the rocks to go get all of their stuff that they had left behind and like put in a hidey spot. And then they would come back, get the kids, and they would go to the train and make their way back home. But the girls never returned. The kids waited in the sandhills from 1 until 5 p.m. before they were like, they're not coming back. So they went back to the rocks, hoping to find Marianne and Christine over there. But instead, they found all of their belongings still sitting there exactly where they had left them, including both Marianne and Christine's purses. Scared, they collected all of their bags and then rushed as fast as they could to the train station, where they sat at the train station and waited for a few hours, hoping that the two girls would show up there and be like, we've been looking all over for you or whatever, but they never did. So they were forced to take the last train ride home home for the evening, leaving Marianne and Christine behind. They arrived back in West Ryde at approximately 8 p.m., where they frantically ran home and told their guardians about what had happened. Marianne and Christine were then reported missing by Christine's grandmother, who she lived with, by 8:30 p.m. that night. She wasted no fucking time. She went straight to the police station. Of course, because they're 15, police are like, they're runaways. They'll probably show up here, later or come back tomorrow. So they weren't as quick with the searches as they were for the Beaumont children. That next morning, Tuesday, January 12th, 1965, a man named Peter was taking his 3 young nephews on a walk through the Wanda Beach sandhills when they came across what looked to be a mannequin buried face down in the sand. Curious, he walks over to it and brushes away the sand from the mannequin's head, only to realize that it was the body of a teenage girl. He immediately rushed to the surf club and called police from there. While observing the scene, investigators unearthed a second body of a teenage girl beside the first. These were the bodies of Christine and Marianne. Marianne, who was the first body found by Peter, was lying on her right side with her left leg bent. Just below her was Christine, whose head was pressed against the sole of Marianne's left foot. There was a 37-yard long drag mark in the sand that indicated Christine had tried to flee but was caught and then hit over the head with something and drugged back to the location where she was found beside Marianne. A trigger warning because this is really upsetting. Both of the women had several scratch marks on their faces. Marianne's throat had been slashed so deeply that she was nearly decapitated, and she had been stabbed at least 6 times in her chest, where Christine had suffered a blow to the back of her head with a blunt object and had been stabbed 14 times.
Oh my God.
Both of the girls' underwear had been ripped and cut away, and, quote, attempts were made to rape the both of them. Semen was found on both of their bodies. After searching through the sand nearby where their bodies were located, various items of importance were collected, including a blood-stained knife. By January of 1966, when the Beaumont children went missing, several thousands of interviews had been conducted in the case, but the case of the Wanda Beach murders remained unsolved. So when this happens to the Beaumont children, even though it's literally 15 hours away,
right,
all people can think is oh my God, this happened just a year ago and we still don't have any answers. On a beach, just kids, whatever. Mm-hmm. And by this point in time, it was Sunday, January 30th, 5 days since the children were last seen with no discoveries made, leading investigators to believe that their case was likely not connected to the Wanda Beach murders, considering how quickly Marianne and Christine were discovered. But they didn't want to rule out a connection completely, so they kept that in mind. They just didn't want to get tunnel vision on it. Their main focus at this point in time was continuing their search efforts and trying to locate this man, who was now, of course, their number one suspect. Since getting the updated composite sketch, Adelaide police had began comparing it to all of the known registered sex offenders in Adelaide to see if there was a resemblance. If they did find someone who looked remotely similar to that sketch, or build and body or whatever remotely was similar to this person, they would go to their homes and search it for not only the children, but specifically those navy blue swim trunks that had the white stripe down the side. Unfortunately, though, none of their efforts were getting them any closer to finding Jane, Arna, or Grant. Before they knew it, 8 months had gone by.
Oh my God.
With no developments in this case, despite all of their continued efforts to garner new leads. At this point, it was September of 1966. And according to the book, Searching for the Beaumont Children by Alan J. Whitaker, that I was able to order through Amazon, you guys can as well, Senior Constable Ron Gross was using the phone at his station in Canaiva, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm not really sure. Anyways, he's in this, I'm going to call it Canaiva. So he's in Canaiva. He's a police officer, and he's trying to call from his police station the head offices in Melbourne. Now, for context, Canaiva is a super small town in Victoria, Australia that roughly sits 200 miles east of Adelaide and is best known as a rest stop between Adelaide and Melbourne, as it sits directly, exactly at the halfway point between the two cities. Gross, the constable, he's trying to get connected to the Melbourne offices when he overhears a conversation from another line. As in, allegedly, the lines got crossed accidentally, which was very, very common at this time. There was like a big problem with like crossing lines and being able to hear like one part of a conversation as you were being connected over to whoever you were trying to call. He is now listening in on this stranger's call. And at first, he hears this woman speaking and he can't necessarily make out what she's saying. But when he's able to make out what she's saying, it forces him to immediately place his hand over the receiver so she couldn't hear him and be alerted that he was listening in. Because what this woman was discussing was the Beaumont children. But even more specifically than that, she was talking about the best way to, quote, bring the Beaumont children back from Hobart, which is a city on the island of Tasmania.
What?
Yeah.
I need my maps again.
Bring your maps up, baby. So Gross hears this and then he gets connected back over to Melbourne. He's like, fuck, I wanted to keep listening in. So he calls this in immediately to Adelaide because though he felt like it just could have been out of context or possibly like a hoax, he had to get this off his chest. He had to do his due diligence here. Everyone pretty much agreed with him, even though they all pretty much thought this had to be like a misunderstanding or a hoax. They didn't want to take any chances on missing out on a lead. So South Australian police informed Nancy and Jim about this call, which makes everyone have this hope that maybe, just maybe, the kids were actually alive, but they spoke too soon. And when I say the South Australian police informed Nancy and Jim, I mean one specific agent or officer that we're going to come back to here in a little bit because I'm not his biggest fan. The majority of the investigators on this task force were like, how about we track down the call first and go talk to this person before we alert the family? And he was like, fuck you, the family needs to know. Which in most cases I would agree with. However, this turns out being a dead end because they were quickly able to track down this woman and they investigate her, they interview her, and they realize that this was a very unfortunate misunderstanding because I don't know exactly what the context is, but from the most of the sources that I saw, pretty much she was like discussing her 3 children that were visiting family in Hobart, and it was on the tail end of a conversation where she was talking about the Beaumont children with her friend. So it just like, because it's not like
flowed, yeah.
Yeah,
and you're
like
hearing every other word.
You're hearing, yeah, exactly. Now, this was disappointing.
That would have been
crazy
like
accident. Yeah, truly. This was disappointing. However, it did renew the case in the public eye and the media once again, and brought forward a well-known Dutch psychic named Gerard G, who was adamant that he knew where the Beaumont children were buried. This dude coming forward was a pretty big deal because he was very well known throughout Europe for being able to help solve missing persons cases. In fact, he was so trusted that allegedly police in certain cases had actually given him access to confidential police files in order to help him narrow down what it was he was seeing in his visions. So Gerard is flown from the Netherlands to Adelaide by a very, very wealthy local couple to show police the location that he had been seeing in his visions. Now, he gets there in November of 1966. Once he gets to Adelaide, the police meet with him, even though they're not fully behind this, and they begin driving him around until he spots the location that he had been seeing in his visions. And it's this warehouse in Paringa Park, which is located less than 500 meters or 547 yards from the Beaumont children's home in Somerton Park. He can't say for certain if the bodies are there, but all that he can tell police is that something under the ground here is connected to the 3 children and will help you to find them. So he pretty much is going back on his initial claim saying like, I know where the children are buried. And now he's like, well, something there has to do with where they are.
What's the park called?
Paringa Park.
Thanks.
Yes, you're so welcome. Now, so he's going back on his initial claims, and of course everyone's like, okay, whatever. But another thing is that he also began talking about how he didn't think that the kids had been murdered, and that man that they were seen with, he claimed, had nothing to do with their disappearance. Obviously, after hearing all this, police are like, yeah, you know what, bro? You should get the fuck out of here. Netherlands. They're like, we're not gonna dig up this fucking warehouse when you're saying dumb shit like this. Sorry. Like, we already weren't fully convinced, but definitely not fucking now. At which point, after being there for only 3 days, after being turned down to dig it up right then and there, Gerard just leaves. and he flies back to the Netherlands. But that wouldn't be the end.
Did you look into him at all?
No, I didn't even give a fuck.
Maybe I will.
Yeah, maybe look him up, because he might actually have had, but everything that I've read and everything that seems like he claims to be very helpful and so I don't know if that's like truly what was happening or if this man was delusional and just a scam artist, you know. I'm not going to back anyone that's not Susan, to be quite honest.
Right.
You know. So he dips out. He's like, fuck y'all, I'm going back. But this wouldn't be the end of him. Because of the amount of people that believed him and the media attention that his visit had garnered, locals joined together and raised enough money to finance the dig on their own, forcing police to have to get involved. So about 4 months after this guy left and several meetings with the private owners of the warehouse, police and the owners agreed to allow this spot, this very specific spot that Gerard had pointed out to them, to be dug up. And they began their excavations on March 1st, 1967. This is a year and 2 months after Jane, Arna, and Grant went missing. It would take them 9 whole days to dig and search the area, at which point they determined the site was clean. It was absolutely pointless. There was nothing at all. And the case, for the first time, officially went cold.
I will say, though, I love that the community has gathered this much. Like the rich couples flying someone in, they raise enough money.
And it's not even stopped. It's still, that's what the update is about today.
Wow.
That's what's crazy. Like all these years later. How many years is that? 1966 to now. Like all these fucking years later, and still the people of Adelaide are like, we're not going down without a fight.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, me too. The case, for the first time, officially goes cold. That is until February of 1968, just over 2 years since the Beaumont children disappeared, when a handwritten letter arrives at the Beaumont's home, allegedly from Jane, that, according to the book The Satin Man, Uncovering the Mystery of the Missing Beaumont Children by Alan Whitaker and Stuart Mullins, that I also was able to buy on Amazon, read, quote, "Dear Mom and Dad, we are safe. There is no need to worry about us. Oh, we really missed you in the past 2 years. At the beach, on that day, we were walking to the bus stop when a man in a car stopped us and asked us if we wanted a ride. I said that we did, and that is how it all started. The man would not let us write before. He is letting us write tonight because he saw the story in the Herald tonight and felt sorry for you both. He watched us a lot for about 6 weeks, and then he did not watch us so much. Arna and I talk about you often, but Grant does not remember you at all after more than 2 years. We have been well fed all the time. I, as well as Arna and Grant, hope that you are both well. The man said to me just now that he will willingly let us go if you come over to Victoria to get us, as long as you do not call the police. He said that if you do, the deal is off. You have to pick us up in front of the Dandenong post office at 10 minutes to 9 o'clock next Monday, the 26th of February. You, Dad, have to wear a dark coat and white pants so the man will know you. The man told me to tell you that the police must not know at all. He said that if you do tell them, you may as well not come. So please do not tell them. The Dandenong post office is in Victoria, in case you did not know. Please do not tell the police. The man did not mean to harm us. We still love you both. Love, Jane, Arna, and Grant." This is Jane who is writing. Immediately upon reading this, Jim and Nancy knew that something was off. First off, this handwriting did not look like Jane's. Like, there was a few things that were similar, but they were able to confirm that this was like 100% likely not her handwriting when they compared it to her school notebooks that they still had. And secondly, if this was Jane writing, she fucking spelled Arna's name wrong. She spelled it A-R-N-A, but Arna's name was spelled A-R-N-N-A, which she just simply would not have done.
Right.
Because of this, they believed that it was fake. So they very quickly called the police and handed over to investigators, who determined that it had been postmarked from Dandenong, which is a suburb of Melbourne, just 757 kilometers or roughly 470 miles east of Adelaide. Either way, though the investigators, just like the Beaumonts, thought this had to have been like a fucking hoax, like a scam, because nothing was really aligning with it. And like, why would they do this? Like, they didn't ask for a ransom, like nothing like that. Right. We're just going to hand the kids back over to you after 2 fucking years. One of these investigators went rogue for the second time, as he was the one who insisted on telling the Beaumonts about the call before they were able to confirm. This guy, he goes to Jim and Nancy and he's like, look, I know that they're saying that's not legit, but I know it's legit. 100% I know it's legit. I compared it to the handwriting samples that we have of Jane's and it's spot on. We need to go.
I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt if you were like, he went on his own and dressed up, and I was like, oh, he's just really, you know, obsessed with the case. He wants justice. He feels like that he wants to keep the family in the loop. No,
he's obsessed, like in an unhealthy way, in a way that police officers cannot be, because shit like this happens. So he like secretly goes to them and has this conversation behind the like doesn't tell his superintendent, doesn't tell like his higher ups, doesn't tell anyone. And he tells Jim and Nancy, don't tell anyone that we're going here. He rents a car and drives with Nancy and Jim to Dandenong or Melbourne, and they arrive there like that morning at like 5 a.m. or something. They go to a motel. Jim and Nancy use fake names, but this fucking officer doesn't. This fucking idiot. So they get there on the 26th when they're supposed to be there. So they get into the motel. Jim changes. He puts on the dark coat and the white bottoms, and they go to the post office. Nancy, I believe, either stays at the motel or stays in the car. And then the officer was dressed in like street clothes, acts like he's reading a newspaper outside on the bench, and like he's not involved or has anything to do with this, while Jim either like waits in the lobby or waits outside the front. And after a while, the time that was marked for him to meet them comes and goes. But about 5 minutes after the time hit, a phone call comes into the front desk of the post office, and they leave a message for Jim. It's a man on the other line, and he says, I need you to tell the man in the dark coat and the white pants, whose name is Jim, that I'm running a little behind, so wait on me.
I'm sorry. What?
But the man never shows. The children never show. The man never shows. The couple and this fucking rogue-ass officer do this 3 days in a row, waiting on the children and the man to come. Out there all fucking day long before returning home, but only after the media had picked up on the story because of the officer that didn't use a fucking fake name.
Oh my God.
And blew their cover, leading the man to write and send several more threatening and dark, angry letters to the Beaumonts, which made the Beaumonts angry as fuck at the media. They're like, we're never fucking talking to you guys again. Like, you just blew our fucking cover. Even if it was a hoax or whatever, like,
if there was the slightest chance that, yes, it may not have been our daughter's handwriting, what if the man wrote it?
Right. And another thing I'm going to add about this, because I'm just going to say was the time whenever we get to this portion, like in the 90s, off of one of these letters, they were able to pull fingerprints, and it was connected to a man who was like now in his like 50s. He was a teenager at the time and wrote these fucking fake letters. He was never charged because of the statute of limitations on it. He like came forward and apologized like when they caught him.
Jesus. Yeah. How sick do you have to be to do that?
It's just really fucked up. And by the way, after this incident, this officer got fired.
Yeah, I was thinking that was coming.
Yeah. He had already had like 5 warnings from his like higher ups being like, we're going to take you off the case if you don't chill out.
Yeah. And he didn't.
He didn't. He got fired. Yeah. He was forced to, the quote is, he was forced to leave law enforcement. Gotcha. Now, it would be 5 more years before the case of the Beaumont children had any more movement in it, when on August 25th, 1973, 11-year-old Joanne Radcliffe and 4-year-old Christy Gordon were abducted by an unidentified man from the fully packed Adelaide Oval Stadium during an Australian rules football match in broad daylight with several witnesses, whose description and composite sketch eerily resembled the sketch of the man that Jane, Arna, and Grant were last seen with on January 26, 1966.
Oh my God.
So I'll show it to you real fast, Morgan.
Oh my God.
Just with a hat on.
Just with a hat.
And that is going to be where we pick up next week in episode 232 on part 2 of the Beaumont children.
Murderer.
And there's more. There's more cases.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, wow. I'm going to cover this. I'm going to tell you guys the full details of this case because it's even more so than the Wanda Beach. It is the one that is considered to be the direct tie.
Yeah.
To the Beaumont children.
5 years later, you said?
Hold on, let me confirm. I think it's actually like
7 years.
1973.
We were 2 years.
66.
Then we were 5. I think
8,
we were about maybe
9,
7 or 8.
70, 71, 72, 76 years.
6 years.
6 years later. So yeah. That's
Holy
where I'm
shit.
sorry to do a 2-part, but
I've never heard about this.
I physically can't, like, I couldn't have.
Yeah,
there's no way. Like, this is not even really the halfway point. Like, I did all this to tell you.
We might be a 3-part.
You gotta do it. We can't because it's St. Patty's Day. Yeah, 2/33 is St. Patty's Day. So I literally only have next week. You need to do a short, sweet and short case next week.
You know, Mama loves that.
Yeah. So
that's my favorite words.
That is where we're at today. Yeah.
Wow. I'm mind fucked right now.
Oh yeah.
I have my map up. I'm ready to get on Reddit.
I'm this close. Like, if I'm able to, I would like to. I know we're recording TBVs on Thursday, but I'm also like this close, just while it's fresh on our mind, to go ahead and record my part 2 on Thursday. But then, you know me, I'd have to release it because I'd feel bad that I didn't release it. And then we would, you know, whatever. But I want you to be aware. Just don't forget it.
I won't.
Clock it in your mind. Don't ever forget it.
I won't. Well, I'm going to search you on TikTok. That way it keeps coming up on my For You page for the next couple of weeks.
That's what you need to do, and get on Reddit.
I will.
Yeah. But don't read too far. I need you to be shocked a little bit. I need you to be a little shocked.
I know. Okay.
Yeah, you better not. Fucking kill you.
Oh, it's good to be back, guys.
Good to be back. Glad to be back with a bang. You did some absolutely fucked up shit. I came here with a case that I've been harboring since season 2. Yeah.
And also, I didn't tell you guys, unless you saw my Instagram, my TikTok got hacked, and now they're selling mops.
Good deal.
They're selling mops. They deleted all my videos except for one.
We need to go report.
I've tried.
Don't forget. I know. I keep reporting it too. Maybe we just need to contact them.
What are they selling mops for?
I don't know.
And why did you keep my one video of my dog on me as a backpack? They're probably like, oh, that's cute. Next. We'll keep that one.
We'll keep that one. Good deal. Good deal.
That's
good
cute.
deal. Well, also, they probably were like, you have enough following that they can be a affiliate if they are able to sell enough fucking mops. Like,
they're selling. They have TikTok links on it. I'm like, could you at least like share the proceeds?
Give me
like,
at least 30.
You're gonna hack me like that? That's crazy.
We gotta get the account shut.
It was from
down.
Wisconsin too. I got a text. It was like, if this wasn't, and also 2-factor authentication is bullshit. Fuck you.
It
was like, if this wasn't you, that here's your code, and then another text. If this wasn't you that logged in through Wisconsin from Wisconsin, USA, please go to your settings on your homepage. So what do? I go to my settings. Oh, I can't. I'm logged out. Try to recover by email. Sorry, this account doesn't exist. Phone number. Sorry, there's no account to this number. Like, I couldn't even do it. It was in the middle of the night. I was fucking sleeping. Had I been in the mainland,
oh, they'd been fucked.
Because I would have been able to. Yeah. I would have been awake.
Yeah, you would have.
Because it was probably like 10 a.m. our time.
You would have seen it come through. Fuck.
Yeah.
That's so unfortunate.
I know. So now I'm like, okay, was it United's Wi-Fi that I connected to that fucked me up?
Right. That was what I was thinking.
I didn't connect to the hotel. I was connected to Chicago's airport.
That's where it was. 100%. Why
like,
are you on the Wi-Fi at Chicago?
No service, and I was trying to answer text messages and get a hold of my mom. And I mean, there's nothing in the airport.
That's horrible.
And so I was like, I'll just try.
And that makes sense why it's Wisconsin that got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know where Wisconsin is. Fuck
it's like
them.
right beside
and
Illinois.
Fuck their stupid mops. If any of you guys buy them, done. And why'd they have to make my name so vulgar?
No, it's scary.
At least they removed my picture.
Oh, and by the way, we're wearing our new merch.
Yeah.
You guys can still go buy it.
Please buy it.
Please keep buying it. Please keep buying it. Please keep buying it. I'll link it in the show notes. I've done it for the last few episodes.
It's perfect for summertime, guys. Make sure you have your St. Patty's ordered
right now. We think it comes like relatively quickly, but once you guys get it, like take pics in it, like, and tag us in it. But St. Patty's Day, I expect us all to be wearing the Pour That Shit Up shirt. That's what's happening.
And we're going crazy for it.
We are. We've already planned it out.
A DD.
Yep.
The boys might make an appearance.
Yep.
Maybe not then, but
maybe
that night.
Probably. They might. We might. Google Docs that says, hey, bitches, when you do St. Patty's Day 5.0, you should fucking check this out.
You should look at this.
So we got that in the works. It's coming up. Big holiday around here.
Yeah, it's our favorite.
Anyways, of course, I'll be going, since I'm doing a part 2, I'll go first next week. So we're going to wrap us up with something easy and kind.
Oh, guys, please.
Gentle.
She says short. I hear mini case, 3 pages.
She said, I'm going to need about a 2-pager. You know, we could do like a good creepypasta. People did request creepypastas from you.
Oh, that's probably not considerate.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because we're kind of on the up when we get to the end of this case.
Okay.
We've got like exciting new updates and shit. But maybe in the time between part 1 and part 2, there's probably going to be an even bigger update than just the update that there's going to be an update. So I've been, if anyone's in Australia, will you fucking please look at me. Look at me in my eyes. Get on YouTube and look at me.
Your country's got your internet on lockdown.
I can't fucking...
okay, let's be real.
It's probably us.
Our country's got our internet on lockdown.
Yeah, so I need you, if there's any updates that you see before me, or like, well, you're definitely going to see before me, I need you to screenshot it and send me it. Don't send me the link to the article. Screenshot it and send it to me. If you're a Patreon, do it on the Patreon group chats and be like, fucking Taylar, come in here and listen, and I'll come. And then if not, do it in our DMs on Instagram. And if I'm definitely not getting you back there, email it to us, please, because I really need to see. I've been apparently by like at the time we're recording this right now, there should have been something out and I can't find fucking shit.
We need to change our VPN.
We do, but I'm scared. That's another way to get hacked.
Please.
I'm not getting hacked.
Yeah, you have.
I was so scared.
I was like, she's losing service.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
I'm in the
I have
fucking
like
mountains.
6,000 followers on TikTok. It's not a big deal. I'm like, all right, bye. Sorry about my one viral video. Like, that was sweet.
Bye.
I'd like to have that. I really am sad about more so my drafts.
Yeah.
And also my fucking For You page is like restarted.
No, Morgan, I didn't even think about
so
that.
I'm seeing videos I've already seen, but I'm trying to like re-like them so I can like recurate. But it is whack right now. My For You page is not a for me. It's for
a newbie. And you've been curating that since 2019.
Yes, I know.
Maybe even before.
That was the worst part. I was like, I couldn't even scroll it the first week because I was like, what the fuck is
like
this?
Shit. And you just need to start talking to your phone, like.
Yeah.
Luckily, maybe that we're in the swing of things again and we're talking about things that we like.
Well, what I have rediscovered is that I think, and I know he's a little controversial, but I think I'm a John Summit fan.
Who?
The John Summit.
I don't know who
John
that is.
Summit. Ashton Earl's ex-boyfriend. He's a DJ. He just was out in Aspen at Palm Trees Festival.
Oh, where she's at.
Yeah, where they were at. But he's like a rave DJ.
Yeah.
Remixes and stuff. He's got this. I'll send you it. Oh my God. He was in a fucking ski lift. And people were getting in, and he's up there like just fucking.
That's fun. I need to watch. I've never even seen him before.
I never would have saw him.
Yeah.
Had I not got hacked.
So now
my whole For You page is like John Summit, like, and there's like 19 different accounts that are like fan page.
And we're also low key kind of fucked because I changed every password that we have. And like put on like triple, like if there was another way to make sure that we're alerted if something happens.
What I was worried about was creeps and crimes.
Me too. TikTok. And then I was like, if they get to creeps and crimes, they can 100%, my account's linked to it. So I was like, oh my fuck. So I went in, I had 1 bar of fucking LTE.
I was like, you better hurry the fuck up.
I went immediately to the cabin. Immediately we get there. Everyone's asking me questions. We had just pulled in. So, we're unpacking. I'm like, everyone shut the fuck up. I got shit I got to do.
Morgan was hacked and I'm about to lose everything.
And I'm about to lose everything, so everyone needs to shut the fuck up. Seriously. Yeah. That was the most alarming message I could have ever woken up to.
I know. And I was like, oh my God, that's so annoying because I thought it was recoverable. Mm-hmm. Like I thought, when I first saw it, I was like, someone tried to get in my account.
Yeah. We have that happen all the time.
Yeah. I was like, okay, cool. Surely they didn't. I have the code right here on my phone. That's all the way in Maui.
Yeah.
Like they don't have my phone.
They don't have my phone.
And then I'm like, oh my God, the only person who had access to my phone is my husband. I'm like, especially when he was reading me my name, because I was like, shut the fuck up. I was like, they didn't name it that.
Right. And guys, just go read it.
He was like, yeah, they did. I was like, you're like actually joking. I'm still texting Taylar. He's like, no, I'm serious. Look. I like whipped my head over. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
So bad. Your face was on it. They recently changed your profile picture.
Yeah, they did.
I did notice that.
They have like 40 videos now of mops.
I think I need to unfriend it.
Yeah. Oh God.
Did I not? Hold on. Let me just confirm.
Well, once you block, you can't report anymore.
I never blocked, so that way I could keep reporting.
I was reporting it. I was like, at first I was reporting it on everyone's account as myself, and then I got on Aaron's and I was reporting it as celebrity, and you had to like type in their name.
I know.
And Aaron's like, you're not a celebrity, and I was like,
yeah, the fuck I am.
Who the fuck you think you're talking to? Not me.
Wait, I can't look you up anymore.
It's in my recent. Maybe you did block it then.
Maybe I recently did because I panicked about it.
I mean, it was just really upsetting.
No, that's really, really upsetting. Oh, wait, here we go. I found it. Oh, I'm still friends with it.
Oh, now we're selling bears.
Oh, good. Now we're selling bears.
And silk. RFID wallets so you don't get hacked. There's some
Shut the fuck up.
protection wallets so that no one can steal your credit card. Oh my God, my card's on my TikTok shop.
Oh my God, wait, I'm looking at the comments on the videos and it's all of y'all being like, you're a fucking hacker.
Hack. And it's just me and Ollie. That's it. We're the last video.
Okay, so I need to unfriend, don't I? But what if I can't report it anymore?
I mean, it is what it is. It sucks that they have a video of me and Ollie, but I posted that on the internet so the world can have it.
Okay, I need to block everything, right? I'm going to block. Here we go. I'm doing it.
I'm going to do it too. Why haven't I done it? I'm going to report him one more time as.
Yeah, I just reported it too.
Me. All right. Love you guys.
Yeah, we really got to go. I'm going to have a fucking field day tomorrow.
Oh my God.
Love you. Bye.